All right, welcome back. We continue live right here on Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani with you at 412-575-2600. Let us know what you think about the topics we've talked about here. I got some tweets that I want to get into as well. Beginning with Jay Lovelace, and you can tweet me at KDPomp. He says, respectfully, sir, why would we even care anymore about Le'Veon Bell? So many good things happening in Pittsburgh, and we're talking about a guy who doesn't want to be part of it. Well, we're talking about it just because we've been talking about it for the past 18 months. And surprisingly, this has been a weird season because I think Le'Veon Bell has gone back on what he planned to do a couple of times at the beginning of the season when he was going to come in. He told his teammates, he told people associated with the team that he would be in, and he wasn't because Todd Gurley got money that he didn't expect, and he wanted more, but he wasn't going to get more. So then maybe they thought the bye week, the report came out from ESPN that he would be here, wasn't here again. And then we thought the trade deadline. He shows up in Pittsburgh, says, see you later, Miami, and he's here in Pittsburgh with the intention, from what I know, of signing here, and then that fell through. So we talk about it only because it's still, he's a big part of what they do, even though James Conner, trust me, should be the guy in charge right now, and he shouldn't lose that job. But you'd like to have him just in case there's an injury down the line. And then you're all of a sudden exposed a little bit in that department. So that's why I would do it. And I'd pay him $853 a week gladly to have him in that role. Let's go to line 4, Al in Bethel Park. Al, you're first up tonight. What's up, Al?
Hey, Bob. How you doing?
Thank you for calling.
Thank you. Before I make my pit point, we could have 3 local teams in New Year's Day 6 bowls. I think it could be the first time that happened that I can even remember.
Long time.
Yes.
You'd have to go all the way back.
But here's my point. I think people shouldn't dismiss this. If and when Pitt makes the championship game, as we both know, TV controls everything. You have Northwestern and Pitt both possibly playing in the championship games. People shouldn't laugh at this. I would watch that game very carefully with calls because, you know, they don't want Pitt or Northwestern winning those games. If you don't believe me, ask Robert Morris against Villanova. Ask Mountaineers in '93 when they should have played in Nebraska. I'm just saying.
No, listen, I understand that. And Clemson would be a team that they would want from the ACC to be in that playoff. But I can't believe it would get to that level. I think if Pitt would play well, I don't think there's any refereeing going on that would undermine that outcome if they outperformed a team like Clemson. So we'll see. I don't focus too much on that kind of stuff. Let's go out to Brad in Pittsburgh. Hey, Brad, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Bob?
What's going on, man?
What you doing? Oh, nothing, man. I've been sitting here all day thinking about Bell, and I know everybody's getting tired of talking about him, but I got a gut feeling that he's coming in. And the reason why I say that is I think he's getting kind of jealous of Conner right now. And the reason why I say that is because he didn't expect Conner to do this good. And now he's doing this good. I think he want to prove himself to everybody that, you know, I can still do this job. You know what I mean? And why would he come back to Pittsburgh?
No. Well, he came back to Pittsburgh because his agent didn't have the right information. Mark Caboli of The Athletic tweeted something out, and this has been on the books, but his agent was uninformed about a particular topic that involved the 3rd year of a franchise tag. As it turns out, you can get $30 million. So now Le'Veon, who did not know that ahead of time, thought maybe the Steelers might franchise him again at $20 million, which is something they might have done. But at 30, they're not going to do it. So then he changed his mind again.
Okay, well, at that point, do we need him or don't we need him?
Well, again, I'm telling you this because he's a spectacular athlete, and I'm never going to take that away from him. He is really good at what he does. Thanks for the call, man. But if something happens to Conner, and listen, he hasn't had this sort of workload. Mike Tomlin normally goes with one guy, and he runs that guy a lot. He gets a lot of touches and a lot of carries and a lot of work. You know, at the end of the year, something happens, and then he goes down with an injury, then what? You know, are you going to ride Jalen Samuels? You're going to ride Stephen Ridley as your back? That's a problem if you have big, expectations. But at this point, the Steelers can do nothing about this. It's strictly up to Le'Veon Bell. He may be willing now to just say, they're going to release me. I know it. They won't give me $30 million, and he'll do it that way. I don't know. We'll see. Josiah, San Antonio. What's up, Joe?
Hey, Bob. Thanks for taking the call. Great show as always. I just wanted to say Mike Tomlin is the unsung hero. I mean, Steelers fans, shut up. Every year, I get sick of them talking about firing him. He's proven himself time and time again that he knows what he's doing. Yes,
absolutely,
Rocky, and he has it under control. And if you go back and look at the Carolina game, the Baltimore, he's even cracked down on the penalties. They're not committing that much penalties. And the sticking point is that I just get fed up with people always looking to fire him, and it's like Steelers never fire head coaches, and he's proven himself time and time again.
It's actually a good strategy. Thanks, Josiah, for the call. To just maintain stability. Stability is a big thing in sports. If you can get it, typically it helps you get through rough times. And certainly Mike Tomlin is had critics, and everyone should have a critic when you're at that level. But I've never, ever believed that he was in any jeopardy, and people call it all the time. They just get tired of things, and they have an agenda. They call here, and they want to say, well, his clock management stinks, therefore get rid of him. Oh, his discipline stinks. Well, listen, for a team that was dubbed team turmoil earlier this season with all the distractions, I think he's navigated through this pretty well. That locker room never gives up on him, and they know it. They like him as a coach. They appreciate his way of handling things. You know, some people might say you're letting him get away with too much. He treats them as men. There's a responsibility factor, and he does take discipline. You may not always hear about the discipline, but it does go on. And then, you know, again, I look at the record. Bottom line is, when you're a head coach, you're judged by the record. It is a win business, and he's done a lot of winning. Let's go to Mike in Oakland. Hey, Mike, how are you?
Well, hey, Bob, how you doing tonight?
Good, thanks for calling.
Listen, two quick things. First on Pitt. You know, I have to give my kudos to Narduzzi. I mean, I thought this team was going to win 3 games maybe after getting blown out against Penn State and UCF. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable turnaround. But I just want to stress that they need to up their recruiting game. These 2 running backs, Olsen and Hall, were even Narduzzi recruits. Recruiting every year, in my opinion, has gotten worse. They very rarely get even 4-star players. So I just hope Narduzzi.
They've had a couple 4-star players. I think Paris Ford was a 4-star player.
Yeah, Paris Ford was one, but I mean, I don't know. We need better players to, I think, really maintain competition.
And you know how you do that? You do that by winning your division and then going in and shocking the world and winning maybe something and get some exposure that he wouldn't have gotten elsewhere. And you're right, though. They need better, like especially in the quarterback department, quite frankly, somebody who can come in and just be a stud right off the bat. And I think they all know that, but I think he's done a pretty good job with this. If you look at their defense, they got guys who've developed, and you mentioned the 2 running backs. What's wrong with having guys hang around for 5 years or 4 years, or whatever the case may be? And look what you're getting: 2 seniors who are very capable of what they do.
I agree with you. And I just briefly, I want to just mention, I don't know what you thought of this, but my feeling on Artie Burns, and people might disagree, but he mentioned last year, this stuck out with me. He mentioned in the media that he has CTE. He believes he has full-blown CTE. And, you know, you've seen some young guys his age, you know, getting killed, you know, Chris Henry and other, you know, and then you saw the temper tantrum he threw early in the season. I mean, that might be part of the reason why he's not playing well. I mean, who knows what's in his head? I'm serious.
But no one knows that until you die, and then they do an autopsy. It's the only way you find out. There's no way of knowing. And for him to say that, I remember when he did say that. Thanks for the call. You know, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, people have irrational behavior, and is it strictly because of that? There are some people who believe CTE's been around for a long time, well before it's become documented, and this kind of stuff goes on, and it's not always the case. So I don't know how we got on that topic, but Julie, Nunzio, and Peter, you're coming up next when we return. You're watching the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Girl right here live on Pittsburgh CW.